Let me see if we can get this. I'm gonna start now. Start what? Start talking to the phone with my coffee. It's backwards. It's just black like my soul. I don't know, this is weird. I'm not wearing headphones. I'm in a room. Oh, I don't think I'm allowed to. And I had a kind of experience last night. I had this notebook right there. Born to be awesome. That was part of a project that I started last year. Oh my god. It was part of a project. Dog. Part of a project that I started last year. While I was taking a class on real estate. Now, I succeeded at passing the class, but I succeeded at taking the test. But I was 11 points shy of a passing grade. This is fucking depressing. At the time, I was incredibly invested in what I was doing, what I was going to get out of it, what I was going to do with it. How you doing, my friend? And how how it was going to enhance everything that I was doing. Not just in my own life, but with my business. Well, I was going to say with my business as well, but they're all one and the same thing. My business is my business, and I thought that having a real estate license would help enhance that. But do you see what I'm saying? I thought that by having the real estate license, it would give me more credibility, especially to the people around me, and to even people I don't know yet. And after I left the testing center, oh, you better believe I was fucking, holy shit, I set myself up because about 2 weeks before, I was working at Hugo Boss at the time, and my last day at the store, I was at my home store, was on September 22nd. It was the day of the fall equinox. I schedule my life around the sun and moon cycles. And so that was 12 days after I took the test. Less than 2 weeks. But I didn't put in a 2-week notice. I put in a 4-week notice. Because despite philosophical differences, or maybe more than that, I had respect for my team, and I didn't want to leave them I didn't want to just flat ditch my team, because I know I got to see firsthand how difficult their jobs were. And although the job was a game to me, I knew that it was serious for other people. Not that it was a game, but it brought out a side of me that hadn't really been fleshed out in a long time, that hadn't been nurtured. Corporate Derek. Corporate Derek is pretty much exactly who you would imagine a corporate Derek to be. Loves rules, loves organization, loves structure. My ex-wife and my son, they didn't like corporate Derek. Corporate Derek likes rules. But so what I did was I put in my 4 weeks notice for a few reasons. I didn't want to just walk out on my team, but I also needed to prove to myself that it was real, that I was really going to do it. I was originally hired as a seasonal employee the previous November. And so I was only supposed to be there for a season. But I saw an opportunity that seemed beneficial to me, my business. So I took it. And not only just to me, but for my brother and my team as well. It was an opportunity to free up my brother from a work situation that he didn't want to be in, so that he can move, change stores to the one he wanted to be in. And it was a perfect opportunity because it afforded me some time to travel, but also tell my baby brother and his friends, coworkers, and our coworkers. So I got from being a seasonal part-time, because I wasn't interested in doing a full-time gig. I have my own things I need to do, which doesn't afford me, which doesn't afford me too much time to be fucking around doing things that realistically aren't helping push me forward with my work. So what I did was I took on a part-time position. But over the course of the 10 months I was there, the more I was there, the more I started to realize that they were relying on me in ways that I didn't want them to be relying on me. And it was taking away from other activities, other projects that I felt needed my time. Not to mention that I can be incredibly stubborn. And if I don't like the way that things are going in a certain area of my life, I have a tendency of getting rid of it, making it not work at all. So it had become apparent to me that things weren't working out any longer, in the sense that, okay, if things are really going as bad as I think they are, then that tells me that my time here is pretty much done. I don't need to be here anymore. I got everything I needed. They got everything they needed. And we can close this chapter. That book, Born to Be Awesome, that notebook, there was only 6 pages. I opened it last night to start it out. But there were 6 pages that were written from last year, this time last year. Actually, August 14th was the first entry. And it was part of a project where I was actually writing 2 books at the same time. That was the idea, was I was going to write 2 books at the same time. And It lasted for a couple days, maybe a couple weeks. But when I opened it last night and I saw those old entries, it brought me back to that time. It brought me back 1 year, mentally and emotionally. And though my life looks the same in some degree, maybe on the surface, there's a lot of internal changes that have taken place, and external changes that have taken place since then, that when I opened it and I started writing in it, I felt this compulsion, this desire, this need to start explaining myself to my old self, because when I write, I put my heart and my soul into those pages. I literally put a piece of my soul into those pages. That each page is a time capsule of that day, of that time frame. So when I opened that book, that Derek, that version of Derek that had written in it, he has no idea what the hell just happened over the past year. That's a fragment of me. Yeah, there's components of him that carried on with me, but when I opened that book, I realized, like, holy shit, this guy has no idea what the future has in store. And so what I did was I channeled that part of me and I started to write to it. He wasn't happy. Oh my God, was he pissed? I could feel it. I could feel the part of me from that time frame going, what the fuck did you do to my life? Because at that moment, the idea, the plan was ace the test, get the girl, just in time to quit the job, just in time for the job to run out, so that I had a backup, get my ass into real estate somehow, do something with it. But no, that is not what happened. Yeah, the job faded away. But the day I took the test, which was 2 weeks away from the end of was halfway through my 4-week notice, I fucking failed the test. What the fuck am I gonna do now? Because, and granted, mind you, the lesson, the success, the takeaway from taking the test was, oh shit. This is more than just memorizing. This is more than just repeating and memorizing. This is actual practical application of the information. This is not what was in the class whatsoever. The teacher did not warn us about that. You need to know how to apply the information. You need to be able to think like one of these motherfuckers. Like, you almost need to have experience in order to recognize what's going on. And I thought that was a little bit unfair. I was mad about that. But at the same time, it made sense to me in that, okay, I get it. It's not so cut and dry as you just need to memorize shit. Like, you need to be able to apply the information. Which is fine. Which is fair. But that was good, because that kind of gave me some new insights. But I didn't have time to go back and read the book a fourth time. Because I had read it 3 times. I read it twice on my own and then once with the class. So I thought I was pretty fucking straight. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Well, I mean, I was, but not in a way that was relevant to who I needed to be in order to pass the test. Which, and again, like I said, I mean, I didn't do terrible. I was 11 points short of a passing grade. So, it's not, I don't feel that bad about it. Might have actually been less than 11. But going back to that time frame in my mind and my soul, it kind of was, oh my God, I have no idea. I have to bridge the gap between me and this person. And so I started to kind of give like a brief rundown of, oh, hey, how you doing? Because there is a part of me that needed to recognize I was in a completely different place. I couldn't see what I could see now. The life experiences that I've had over the last year that came from that time period of my life, pretty vast and expansive. So expansive that my intention with coming out today and recording this wasn't so much to just talk to nobody in particular, but to actually talk to that past version of myself so that I can kind of get him up to speed on things. Because, like I said, a lot of shit has happened. So first and foremost, obviously we didn't pass the test. But I did figure out a way to turn that around and go, hey, listen, we didn't pass the test, but we did succeed. We didn't succeed at passing the test. We succeeded at failing the test. We succeeded at not getting a passing grade, but we did also succeed at taking the test. That's the biggest success. That's the biggest thing, is that we didn't just pass the test. We kicked the shit out of the class. We kicked the fucking ever-loving shit out of the class. But there was a lot of quizzes where Derek's name was in first place. Literally first place, because we were doing a competition. Now, I know, it's disappointing. Because at the time you were still even thinking about how we were going to take over that store. Because you wanted to be the boss. Now, check this out, though. Check this out. And I didn't get to tell you about this last night. No, we didn't take over the store. The store is still in the same hands that it was in when we left. And believe me, you didn't want to take the store over. How do I know this? Because, if you can recall, I did mention that we ended up going back to Lancaster, right? So, how do we break this down? We've got 17 minutes. We got a long time, so. And I did drink 2 cups of coffee. All right. So, here's the deal. We left the store. Everything went fine, okay? We ended up making up with Yushira. Like, everything was cool. Like, we actually talked, okay? I'm sure you remember that we weren't talking. It got very awkward. By the end, we did make up. Not make up, but we did start, we were talking. It wasn't so uncomfortably silent where we weren't even looking at each other. And like I said, 6 months later, for her birthday, we did go out on a birthday date. So that's not, we did kind of reconcile that. Granted, we didn't bring it up. We didn't talk about what happened. We didn't dig into why things turned the way that they did. But we did have a really awesome dinner, and we had a great time that night. And she had a lot of fun, so, and she really appreciated it. We almost got to spend some more time together a couple weeks later, but unfortunately things didn't work out that way. But we'll get to that. As of the store, everything went fine. You and Josie had your separate ways. Everybody loves and hugs. Okay? Didn't pass the test. You didn't technically pass the test, but you fucking aced the test. Maybe not the real estate test, but the spiritual test, life test that was being thrown at us at that time. Because what happened was you took the next 3 weeks off. Okay? We started going back to church. We went back to church, but at the same time, we also we did 2 weeks of church with Adrian, which was really cool. He really appreciated that. We made some new friends at his church. But we also, believe it or not, got saved by Jesus Christ. Now, here's the thing with that. I know I say, oh, I got saved by Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's a little bit more complex of a situation than just that. Remember last night how I wrote the God-Satan thing? Right. So, as it turns out, how do I put this? So, one day after church, right? I was really disheartened by the things that I heard. And it's not that we were converted to Christianity. No, of course not. It's just more that it's an all-encompassing religion that we have here. All-encompassing philosophy and perspective and connection. So, when we went, we heard the priest say exactly what we were expecting, but just talking in that way. Money. One God that God fucking worships. So I got a little bit tired of that. We got a little bit tired of that. But keep in mind, you're a witch. I'm a witch. Those fucking people, what they did to our people, fuck them. Forgiveness. Forgive them. Forgive them. Thank you. Thank you for burning and torturing all the witches. And I know. There's some people in the peanut gallery that would argue they weren't all witches. There's a lot of people that were getting burnt because of people blaming women. Yeah, but no, not all. Not always. We're practitioners of the craft that were lumped in there too. God, well, people have and here's the thing: is what I think people have to remember that just because they don't believe in something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means that they can't explain it. They don't understand it. That's it. I just had a conversation in an atheist group where a gentleman posed a question to fellow atheists. Who do you prefer, Christians or Muslims? Of course, neither. So I thought to myself, oh, why is it only these two? Why aren't they lumping in everybody else? So what about the Jews? He said, because I only put Christians and Muslims, okay? But I'm asking you, why did you leave out the Jews? Well, I don't understand their religion, and I don't know any Jews personally. Okay. Yeah, so I gave him a little education on Judaism. I'm practicing. Oh, by the way, we're practicing to be a rabbi. First non-Jewish rabbi. What? Yeah, so that's the thing that's the thing I'm doing. It's calling. If you remember back when we were at Father Brian's church, we used to interview all the priests and ask them what made them follow that path. Because we were looking for an answer, right? Not a single one of them gave us the answer that we were looking for. But we're looking for, we want to hear. I was called to this. I was called to this line of work. I don't know, there was just something inside of me that pulled me in this direction. That told me that this is what I had to do. That inside voice of mine that said, go this way. Go through this narrow gate. Don't worry about going over there. So, but because we didn't hear anybody actually saying that in any way, shape, or form, but we felt that in ourselves, we decided to pursue it, Right, remember? I know. They had answers. It wasn't like it was just a useless time wasted. No, they actually had answers that they had. Not necessarily that they knew they were giving us answers, but we did find answers in that church. And the same thing with the Jews. By the way, I've been studying Torah and Talmud, getting familiarized with the Mishnah and Gemara. Because why the fuck not? If Judaism seems to be nurturing, we get some nourishment from Islam, we get some nourishment from Christianity, we get some nourishment from witchcraft and paganism, and why would it not make sense that we wouldn't also get some nourishment from Judaism, which, in a way, I was saying this to Tori this morning, it's like Judaism seems to have this way of confirming everything I learned from paganry and witchery, but consolidated. Instead of many gods and goddesses, everything's consolidated into one entity that's composed of two components, of masculine and feminine. Makes perfect sense. That the soul is a reflection of God. The soul is a fragment, a fractal of God within yourself. And within everything. Just like Gnostic Jesus. Lift a stone, you'll find me. Break a branch, and I'll be there. Basically, Spirit of Christ is within everything. Spirit of God. Christ comes from God. It's like the purest form of the soul, of the Spirit, that exists within everything. It's that spark, it's that fire. It's that thing that gives life to everything. You can't see it, you can't touch it, but you know it's there. You can't feel it, you can't smell it, but you can. It's the matrix exists within. It's the matrix of all matrices. It's a thing that makes this tree do exactly what it's doing. What makes this lichen is what motivated the call to put in that screw right there. It's the water, it's the ripples, it's the dirt, it's my voice. If we were to get a sticky bush, where is it? Now if we get the sticky bush, get one of the stickers and poke some holes in my arm. It's in the blood that comes out of my arm. It's everything. It's flow. It's air. It's the sun, it's moon. It's that force that gives everything life to move. You think that there's life in the universe? Oh, try to consider that the universe itself is alive. God even sounds like a Jew. Hey, what do you want me to do? It's in the turtles. But he's a sexy motherfucker. I'll give him that. Thank you. But what? It's a combination of all of them. Everyone's got a piece of the puzzle. The Jews, yeah, they have their way. It's incredibly, it's hereditary. Huh? It's hereditary. Adam and Eve were basically the first Jews. It's not that everything started at that point. That was when we started to recognize that there was meaning in things. There's 8 billion people in this world right now. You count backwards through time, eventually what happens is the human population starts to decrease and decrease and decrease and decrease and decrease and decrease and decrease until you start with 2. Human, man, science took that word and made it its own. But if you look at it from the perspective of the Torah in the Old Testament, we could argue that it's not talking about everybody. it's just talking about that one bloodline. Are you animal or are you human? Or are you an animal pretending to be human? Not everything that walks on 2 legs is going to be a man. There are some things that walk on 2 legs that came from 4. You can't look around this world and say there aren't animals walking around on 2 legs. Wolves in sheep clothing. Or maybe sheep in wolves clothing. Try to be a little scarier than what they really are. That's a thing. As Hillary Clinton put it, the show horse versus the workhorse. We live in a world where people like to pretend to be something that they're not. Fake it till you make it? Maybe. Yes and no. Fake it long enough for other people to start buying into your bullshit. Maybe even the bullshit that you don't even buy for yourself. You're just there to trick other people into thinking what you want them to believe. And you don't even believe it yourself. Now, going back to what I was saying, after we left the store, we were home for about 3 weeks. And we decided to put our faith. We saw this as an opportunity to test our faith. Not just in ourselves, but in it as well. In the force, the greater will of the force that had been guiding us along for all this time. Because the message that was coming through was trust. It's all good. You need this to happen right now. This is preparing you. So over the course of those 3 weeks, we did a lot of internal work, external work, crammed a lot of books, did a lot of educational work. We got back into the witchcraft, learning the ways. A lot of networking, branching out, talking to people, learning different other people's ways of doing things, trying to understand people. It was good, and it was very good. And then one day we were running out of money leading up to Michael's wedding. And something happened. But that something that happened, it put us in a position where we had to actually make the impossible happen. The amazing thing about it was that we made it happen. By the grace of God and Goddess, and with our own fucking fortitude, we made it fucking happen. And with some highly reliable people and unreliable people. But the beautiful thing about the unreliable people was that it put us in a position where we had to start doing things for ourselves and start thinking for ourselves. And although you didn't get to take over the Atlantic City store like you had kind of wanted to do, you did get to take over the Lancaster store for about 4.5 months. Not only did you take over that store, you ran the store. Hillary left. Hillary left and left a really big fucking vacuum. They hired a girl who was there. We were supposed to only go down there to help her. That was the plan. 2 weeks, done. She just needed to hire some staff. But when we got there, she was gone. She was about, we were there for six days. 6 days. She showed up to work once. And then she quit the next day. She quit 2 days later. Which put us in a position, which put us in a really compromising position, because now we basically had to take the store over and take everything that we learned from Atlantic City store, from the time that we did spend with Hillary, from the time that we did spend in the Borgata, and then apply that to this new place. There was only 2 of us. You, me, Frank, a fellow named George, and it was the worst. It was the worst. But something that we learned, if you remember, our first time in Lancaster, when Miss Kim was holding our hands every single night. You said something to her. You woke up. You woke up in the middle of the night with a voice in your head. Remember what the voice said? My best days are disguised as my worst days, because each one is a stepping stone until I get to see your face again. That insight, that revelation carried through, and it saved our ass in Lancaster the second time around. Because yeah, it was the worst. Those first 3 weeks we were there, we got 1 day off. 1 day off in 21 days. How much of a fucking pain in the ass that was? I had no fucking money. We got there with $50. I'm sorry, we got there with $50. We didn't get paid for another 3 weeks. There was days we didn't get to eat dinner, no lunch. We had to fill our bellies up with coffee at night. We allowed ourselves to be put into a situation that not a single other employee in that company was willing to put themselves into. And not to mention the storage room in the back still looked exactly the way that it did. It looked worse than when we left Hillary the first time, the year prior. It looked fucking worse. But by the end of those 4 months, not only did we redo the entire fucking back, redid the entire front of the fucking store, trained new staff, we made it so that we have not had to go back there once. Now, as much as Frank was fighting and pushing for us to stay there and move there and da-da-da-da-da, even the new manager, she asked us, why didn't you take this job? Because I wanted somebody else to take it. My life mission isn't to work there at that store. My mission is to do my shit. That was an experience. That was a learning experience. An incredibly powerful one, too. so very worth it. But now the relationship with Kim, what happened with that? What do you think happened with it? We both kept it going for as long as we could. We tried. We did our best. Two friends. Friends trying to be friendly. And yeah. Over the next several months, we were there for each other when we needed each other. But at the same time, remember what you said in the very beginning. Doesn't matter if it's us or somebody else or what. She's our friend. We gotta be there for our friend. And so that's what happened. We were there for our friend for as long as we could. And once she made it apparent that it wasn't us that she was looking for, it's time to move on. I know, it was upsetting. You spend that much time with somebody for 2 years. But you realize, but in our defense, in her defense, you're starting something new with somebody. We can't be there. We just get in the way. And it was a good opportunity for us to reinvest all of the energy that we were putting into her back into ourselves and to our own work. And it was difficult. Of course it was fucking difficult. It was a breakup. That's what it felt like, a breakup. You care for somebody so much, but you realize you have to let them go. Hey, what are you gonna do? You're really doing this Jew voice. I know. It's coming natural to me. I've been watching rabbis. I've been watching a bunch of rabbis on YouTube, learning the Jewish ways, and they all have a little way of talking and inflecting their voice like this. I don't know what to tell you. Because I like the way it makes my voice sound. It reminds me of something that I heard the ninja said in South Africa. There's 12 national languages. Which means you have 12 different languages to choose from. What else? What else do you want to know? Over the time in Lancaster, we were in the hotel every fucking day. We rarely came home. It was not even this place. It was depressing because there were times where it was just like, I don't know when the fuck I'm gonna go home next. I just didn't know. It's incredibly traumatic. But was an enriching experience. Got to meet some people, got to do some things, got to make things happen. I'm just watching this insect skirt the surface of the water. Waiting to see. I made it. I was looking to see if anyone was going to come and eat them. It makes it to the next stage of the game. Now, obviously, our money coffers were refilled during that time. The company was paying for everything. It's good. It's very good. Stressful, painful, and our relationship with Frank deteriorated quite a bit by the time we got to the end. We started to see that he wasn't who we thought he was. More that he was exactly who we expected him to be. Or some of us are more sensitive than others. It broke my heart. Now, what else? Dar, Cindy, George, Jorge. We did get to take on that leadership role, though. It was amazing. People saw us as the chief. Everyone saw us as the chief. It was difficult at times. We tried to fight it, but there came a point where we just had to kind of own it. And once they finally got a manager, she was incredibly grateful for the time that we invested in her and her team and her store. It was good. She got to run 2 inventories. 2 painfully difficult inventories. Basically, we're the manager. You were the manager. You were Hugo's boss. Put it that way. When people go in that store, they go looking for you. Or did. You left a piece of yourself in that store that isn't easily replaced. In that company. It's impressive. The impact that you had. And the fact that you weren't really an employee, technically, but you ran that place like you fucking owned it. Beautiful. But, as it turns out, some policies were being taken advantage of, ignored, and they weren't paying us exactly what they should have been paying us. And maybe rightfully so. I mean, they were giving us everything on a fucking silver platter. But, at the same time, we didn't have to do shit. And then again, nobody owes anybody anything. Well, technically they do owe us $640. Well, I mean, even then, that's questionable. That's questionable. But we'll fight for it anyway. You believe in it? Yeah, I believe in it. Got angry. So, it's okay. So now, you're pretty much all caught up. I mean, we got back in February. We were home for a couple days. Now, we did a project. This is really important. Enough of that other shit. But we started a project with the moon sequences, with the zodiac sequences of the lunar cycles, which has proved to be incredibly useful in everything that we're doing, because it has demonstrated a degree of synchronicity that I don't believe anybody has investigated just as of yet. So it's possible that we did break new ground. I could be wrong. I don't know for sure, but all I know is that by following some intuitive nudges and guidance, intuitive nudges, that we managed to figure out how to observe lunar retrogrades, which, for all intents and purposes, shouldn't even be a thing, but turns out that they are, thanks to the geometry of moonology and tropical / Western astrology, which I haven't applied the same principles to sidereal yet. I'd be interested to see how that works, but it would be the exact same way. It's just that the sign of the moon would be a little bit different. Basically, what we started to do, we took out all of our journals, 5 years of journals. Right, for instance, we started with Sagittarius. We started 2023. Anytime there was a full quarter or new moon in Sagittarius, we take out that journal. That's going to happen 4 times a year at 11-week intervals. So we take out those journals from 2023 all the way back to 2018. Every 11 weeks. And then we just read the entries for that particular day. Sometimes the day or two before and after, because we didn't write that on that exact moon date, but the premise stays the same, because the energy, the idea of what's going on and how things relate from one cycle to the next. It tells an evolutionary story, but the interesting thing about it is when you read it backwards instead of forwards, it tells a completely different story. We know the story going forward, but what's difficult, what makes it so fascinating is that when you read it backwards and you see how we went from C to B to A, or from C, from B, from A, it tells the same story in reverse. When you see it in reverse, it makes it that much more, gives it that a new dimension. A new dimensional perspective on the same story. Now, what's also cool about it is that being that there's 12 lunar sequences throughout a year, the course of a year, there's 12 main lunar phases over the course of a year. Each one of those phases or cycles, there's going to be 12 annual lunar cycles over the course of a lunar year. That each sequence, one sequence per sign, those are 12 different perspectives on the same story. Because the story that is told during the Leo sequence is not the same story as the Scorpio sequence. It's not the same story as the Aquarius sequence. It's not the same story as the Taurus sequence. But it's all the same story. From the perspective of the same person. It's looking at the same person from 12 different directions. You know what I mean? It's absolutely fascinating. It's, in my opinion, it's probably one of the most revolutionary ways to do and keep track of one's life. The idea, after we're done, we're about halfway done now. We've made it through Sagittarius, Gemini, Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, and Leo. We have left the remaining 6 zodiac sequences. Once we can finish those 6 sequences, we will have a complete diagram of our life from 12 different perspectives based on the 12 different zodiac signs from the perspective of the lunar sequences that are attached to each of those signs. It's pure fucking genius. Absolute. Fucking love it. Going through those first 6 is what gave us the confidence and the understanding, the insight, the faith, the trust, the belief that everything that we're doing is exactly what we believe that it is and have believed that it is, and that it's incumbent upon us, specifically us, to continue doing the work that we've been doing. Now, this whole thing with Hugo Boss, this lawsuit, there's no lawsuit. There's just a back and forth going on. And it should be over as of today or tomorrow. Either they're going to come back and want to take us to court, or they're going to settle for something, or they're going to tell us to go fuck ourselves, and that's going to be that. Why don't we have any money? Because just like the last time, just like we were told to trust, just like we were told to just keep on doing what you're doing because what you're doing is exactly what you need to be doing, because this right now is prerequisite training for what's coming, because what's coming is not going to be able to happen unless you go through the trials that you're going through right now. Think of it like Jedi trials. You can't become a Jedi until you go through the trials. You can't become a Sith until you go through the Sith trials. You can't do something until you go through all the prerequisite work in order to become that thing that you're trying to become. So right now, we're going on a money fast. The reason we're going on a money fast is, one, because you know and I know we're never going to work for another place again. Maybe we'll go work for Hugo Boss again if they really want to work with us that bad after this whole situation, but that's a possibility that may not really come through. And that's fine, because we don't really want to be working for somebody else. We want to be working for ourselves, or continue working for ourselves, and start making money by working for ourselves, and be able to sustain ourselves by working for ourselves. That's the ultimate goal here, not to be working for somebody else and clocking in and out like we used to, like everybody else. But if Hugo Boss gives us anything that's going to put us back on relying on money, that's going to rely on other people giving us money again, we are not going to be chasing money. We don't chase money no more. That's the new rule. We don't chase. And if we got to stay broke, we're going to stay broke. As you know, as from our previous experience of being in, quote, poverty, not having to rely on the universe and God to provide for us, as you can probably tell, we ain't going hungry. Shit. We haven't starved yet. I said it's 43 weeks. It's been 43 days since we actually spent money. The bank card hasn't left our wallet because there's only 27 cents in our bank account for the past 43 days. Prior to that, thank you. I'm so glad. Prior to that, it had been, technically speaking, we could argue that it's been about 60 days. Maybe 70. Maybe 70 days since maybe 70 days since we actually spent money. The last time we really had money in the account was on June 6th. So we're now technically 2 months out. A little over 2 months. June 26th was the day that was the last time that we actually spent money. It was $1.47 on a fucking pretzel at 7-Eleven. So I know, letting you know that we have only 27, we're broke, we're not broke. We have 27 cents. But the fact that we have 27 cents and we haven't been receiving, by the way, there was also the whole money magic thing. We started getting back into this project with me and Money Magic, and it went on for about 2 months, and it was fairly successful to a degree. But also got to consider that putting too much faith. No. Nothing wrong with putting the faith out there. But we also have to sacrifice. Nothing comes for free. We know that. Mind you, we did 2 months of money magic rituals. It doesn't just come for free. You got to sacrifice. If you want to get, you got to give. On the bright side, we've been giving a lot. But like I said, it's all part of the plan. Have a little faith. Trust. Everything works out in the end. There's going to come a point in the future where we look back on this moment. We're incredibly satisfied that everything went exactly the way that it did. Everything played out exactly the way that it did between now and then. It had to go that way. If it didn't, things wouldn't be exactly the way that they are then. And that's the point. But we're not going to figure that out until later. Which can be a huge pain in the ass. You know. So, what do you do? So right now, what we gotta do? Let's keep on doing what we're doing. Have faith. One of the big issues, one of the big problems. With any kind of faith, any kind of practice like this, is the fear. Oh my God, it's not gonna work. This isn't gonna work out. You're right, it's not. The more you tell yourself it's not gonna work out, the more it's not gonna work out. No. But we're going to trust that it does work out. Not only does it work out, but it already worked out. Already past the point of no return. Already past the point of... how do you put it? We're already past the point where we come to recognize that there is no such thing as failure. Failure is just a different form of success. Just like fear is a different kind of love. Failure is a different kind of success. Not getting what you want. Whoever gets what they want. Once you get what you want, you realize it wasn't what you needed. Now, how often do we at least appreciate the journey that it took to actually get to the place where we got the thing that we wanted? May not have wanted it as bad as, may not have needed it as bad as we wanted it, but to at least appreciate the journey that actually brought us to the point that we got today. Hey, I wanted to run my own Hugo Boss store. We wanted to run our own Hugo Boss, right? We got to do it. And we got to do it with our own rules. Nobody was telling us what to do. We ran the motherfucker. We told everybody what to do. No, there's no rules. They're my fucking rules. Nobody wanted to be there. Nobody was taking the job as seriously as we did. They took it as seriously as they could. I'll give them that. Everybody did. But it wasn't us. We were just there to get things going. We were just acting as the hype man. And it was good. If you remember when we worked at Cosmoprof, we could have taken that career in a really different direction. We could have taken that really far. We could have really did something with that. But what happened? We started to realize that these dreams, these ideas, these feelings, these thoughts, this direction that we wanted to go into, those weren't ours. They were somebody else's. We were starting to follow John's dream. We were starting to do what we were starting to believe that we had to do what John wanted us to do. Hey, remember that. We started studying all the color and took the books home. Why? Because John said that we'd be good at it. And then what happened? We started to realize, what the fuck, I don't want to do this. What do you mean? All this work that we've been doing for this? Mind you, it's a great experience. But that's not what we were put here to do. It's definitely raining. That's good. So then what? So once the money run out, we realized that we had to put our faith into something. Well, our faith was there, but we just had to trust that it was going to come to a point where things would work out in a way that would justify everything that led up to it, if you feel me. Yeah, we run out of money, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to have money ever again. What it means is that we have to prepare ourselves for when we do have money. Something of value doesn't always have a dollar sign attached to it. You understand? We live in a society, in a world where people put so much value on money that they value the money more than they value themselves. That was a big lesson that we learned from Hugo Boss. It's not that people gave a shit about the work. Some did. Some did. But when you apply the equation, would you be doing what you're doing if you weren't being paid to be doing what you're doing? The answer doesn't change. No, why the fuck would I be doing this for free? Exactly. You're valuing the money over you're valuing yourself. You're doing something that you don't even want to be doing. You're doing something that you wouldn't be doing. But like I used to tell all the new hires, hey, don't look at this like a career. What can you take away from this experience? Look at what you can take away from this. Every single day, look at it as a new experience, a new opportunity to learn something that you didn't know yesterday. But also keep in mind, you have dreams, you have goals, you have desires, you have things you want to be doing. Try to imagine what you can take away from this place that's going to help you with what you're doing. May not make sense at first, but I guarantee you, if you put enough thought into it, if you overthink it enough times, if you brain fuck it for long enough, what you're going to find is that you're learning something, learning a skill, learning some kind of tactic, learning something that you can apply to what it is that you actually have a passion for, so that when you go back to doing your passion, you can make it that much better. One of the guys we worked with, his name was George. And he was a rapper. And what I used to tell him, what I used to say to him, maybe what you're learning here isn't so much how to talk to people. Well, maybe that's a thing too. But most of the time we have nothing to do. Spend that time when you got nothing to do, thinking about your new rhymes. Think about what you can be doing. Thinking about what you need to be doing in order to get yourself into a place where you need to be doing all the things. That you can actually do the things that you know you need to be doing. Look at this as just like a fucking stepping stone. Because no, you might not. Well, I don't know if there's anybody that really wants to work in the store forever. But that store is going to teach you something about yourself that you can take away. Now for me, not just with the money magic, but that was a good reminder. Not all money comes in dollars and cents. Not all value is based on dollar amount. These past 43 days, you know what we have been having to do? Past 60 days. I'll tell you. We had to be having to find our own value. We would have to find value in ourselves without money. A lot of these top guys at Hugo Boss that we've had to express ourselves with. A lot of these people, today's world, people put they value themselves based on their bank account. I got this much money. I'm a top percent man because I have this much money in my bank. Because I drive this kind of car. Yeah, but what are you actually providing? What do you do? What value are you actually bringing out into the world? It's definitely raining. My hair frizzy yet? What kind of value do you have? You take your bank account away. What do you got? And the purpose of standing up to Hugo Boss, it's not about the money. The money doesn't mean anything. I'm not going to say the money doesn't mean anything. Of course it has meaning. Of course it has value. There's things I can't do because because I only have 27, because I have 27 cents in the bank. Obviously. We can't go to the Chinese restaurant. Can't take the bus to go see Kim to get our goddamn book back. Which, speaking of, she's holding that thing hostage. She won't give it back. What do you mean she won't give it back? She won't give it back. I've asked about 5 times already. Every time it's a different fucking excuse. That was another part of the breakdown. And I know it's an attachment thing. She's got an attachment. But she's got to learn. Hey. Gotta cut that cord, baby. By the way, you notice, bracelets are gone. The mug's gone. Everything's gone that she got us. Oh, God. Yeah, they did a little cord cutting ritual about a month back. And we set everything on fire.